Good morning, students. Today I'll be discussing this essay titled On Familiar Style by William Hazlitt. So, let us begin with the author, William Hazlitt. He was an English literary critic and author of humanistic essays. He is one of the most prolific writers of this romantic period of English literature. He was also a grammarian and a philosopher as well. And what makes his essays unique is the fact that it lacked all those conscious artistry or all those literary pretensions, all those artificialities you see in the essays of those period. So his essays are noted for the brilliant intellect it reveals. He wrote about English poets, English dramatists, and English novelists. His essays provided commentaries on paintings in England of his day. He analyzed all those English theatre and its actors through his essays and provided comments on the contemporary political scenes as well. And he has written more than 100 informal essays. And his reputation as the foremost literary critic of the early 19th century rests on books like The Round Table, Characters of Shakespeare's Play, Table Talk, Lectures on the English comic writers, and The Spirit of the Age. So his essays dealt with enormous subjects, variety of subjects, which is characterized by vigorous and clear style. So this particular essay on familiar style, which came out in his collection of essays titled Table Talk, is considered to be a masterpiece of William Hazlitt, where he stresses the earlier point that when an author tries to convey his idea, he should do it in a comprehensible manner, which he did in his own essays. So, the whole essay deals with how an author should convey his ideas in a manner that is comprehensible to the reader in clear terms. So, I have given out all those major points from the essay. I have quoted all those major points in this slide, and I will be explaining all these quotes. So, he begins like this. It is not easy to write a familiar style. Many people mistake familiar for a vulgar style and suppose that to write without affectation is to write at random. So here he brings out two extreme. One is familiar style and the other one is vulgar style. Vulgar is not actually what you mean it now. Here, vulgar style refers to all those unnatural, all those artificial kind of writing. And familiar style is something which is very clear, precise, and pure. So, please understand the difference. When he is talking about familiar style, he is talking about a clear, comprehensible kind of writing, and vulgar style, which is difficult to understand, which contains all those difficult words and phrases, which looks so artificial. So he says that he comes out with a negative statement at in the first line itself. He says that it is not so easy to write a familiar style, and people make a mistake of equating familiar style with something which is written in random. Something which is written in random without, it means something which is written without a plan. So it is not that. Familiar style is not something which is written at random. He says familiar style is something that requires more precision, purity of expression. So he says that it utterly rejects not only all those unmeaning form, but all low can't phrases, loose, unconnected, slipshod allusions. Not to take the first word that offers, but the best word in common use. So he sums up what he means by familiar style. Familiar style, he says that it is not something which you write without a plan. It requires more precision. You need to do a lot of work when you start writing in a comprehensible manner. And he says, on the other side, vulgar style doesn't need any kind of preparation. You can take all those difficult phrases from dictionary and come up with a piece of writing. And he says that that is actually a vulgar style, and that is easy compared to familiar style. Familiar style requires more precision. It should have this purity of expression, and it should reject all those unmeaning form. It is all those display, a kind of a showy display of your knowledge. So there are writers who uses all those difficult words just to impress the readers. But according to him, it actually reveals the ignorance of the writer. A true writer will reject all these unmeaning form, which is low, all low, cant phrases. Cant phrases are all those dishonest speech, which is very artificial, and he will reject all those loose, unconnected, slipshod, careless allusions. So that is, according to him, the familiar style. And he says that if you want to write in a familiar style, the first thing you should do is that you shouldn't take the first word that offers, but you should actually wait for the best word to come, and that too which is in common use. So familiar style is not to take the first word that offers. So when you sit to write something, you shouldn't write in a random manner. Use all those first words that come to your mind. You should wait for that best word which is very common, which is very clear even to ordinary people. You shouldn't go for all those difficult phrases. So he continues. He says it is not to throw words together in any combinations we please, but to follow and avail ourselves of the true idiom of the language. To write a genuine family or true English style is to write as anyone would speak in common conversation, who had a thorough command and choice of words, or who could discourse with ease, force and perspicuity. Underline all those words: ease, force and perspicuity, setting aside all pedantic and oratorical flourishes. So you should avoid all those pedantic. Pedantic is all those scholarly knowledge, and all those oratorical flourishes. What you see in an oratory. When you give out a speech, you use all those embellishments, all those flourishes, you use all those ornamental language. So that is not what you should use in a writing. You should give out some piece which should come up something like a common conversation, and even though it is a common conversation, it shouldn't be something like colloquial. It should be something like a person with a thorough command and choice of words. He should have this ease. The discourse, the writing should come up with certain ease, force and perspicuity. Perspicuity is clarity. So when you start writing in a true English style or in a familiar style, or you should use the true idiom of the language. The true idiom of the language. You can't just pick up all those words and keep in any combinations as you like. You should follow and avail yourself with the true idiom of the language. And just like something you see in common conversation, a person who has this thorough command and choice of words, he will maintain a certain decorum even when he speaks. So that should be seen in the writing too. A discourse with ease, force and perspicuity, and it should completely avoid, it should completely set aside what is pedantic and oratorical flourishes. So then he says that there are two extremes. There are two extremes. He says, do not assume, he continues, he says, you do not assume the solemnity of the pulpit or the tone of stage declamation, neither are you at liberty to gamble on at a venture without emphasis or discretion, or to resort to a vulgar dialect or clownish pronunciation. You must steer a middle course. So he is talking about something which comes in middle. So what are the extremes? You shouldn't, when you intend to write a piece, you should use familiar style. And what is familiar style? Familiar style is not what you see when you make a stage declamation. When you make a stage declamation, you uses all those difficult phrases. Or when you give out a speech, that is what he says. Do not assume indeed the solemnity of the pulpit. Pulpit is something you see in a church. In old churches, we have this pulpit where the priest came and he stood before this audience and gave out this speech. That structure is known as pulpit. So you shouldn't assume that you are trying to give out a speech standing in a pulpit. Or the other extreme is the liberty to gamble anything, to liberty to give out right in a colloquial manner. You don't have that right to. A familiar style is something like you must steer a middle course. You must avoid the tone of stage declamation, and you should avoid all those gamblings, all those vulgar dialects, or all those clownish pronunciation. So on the other side, on the one side we have this seriousness of the pulpit, and on the other side we have this clownish vulgar dialect. He says, according to William Hazlitt, familiar style, when a person starts to write, he uses a familiar style which comes in the middle of these two extremes. He says, you must steer a middle course. You are tied down to give to a given and appropriate articulation, which is determined by the habitual associations between sense and sound, which you can only hit by entering into the author's meaning, as you must find the proper words and style to express yourself by fixing your thoughts on the subject you have to write about. So, in order to come out with the exact meaning, you must first of all find the proper words, and you must find out the proper style to express yourself, and that you can do only by fixing your thoughts on the subject you have to write about. So if you are planning to write about a certain subject, the first thing to do, according to William Hazlitt, is to find the proper words and style. Only if you tie down your thoughts to that subject, you can get that right sense and sound, which will reveal the true meaning of that piece. So you must find that proper word and style to express yourself by fixing your thoughts on the subject you have to write about. And he continues, anyone may mouth out a passage with a theatrical cadence, or get up on stilts to tell his thoughts, but to write or speak with propriety and simplicity is a more difficult task. Thus, it is easy to affect a pompous style, to use a word twice as big as the thing you want to express. It is not so easy to pitch upon the every word that exactly fits it. So he says anyone can give out something like a stage declamation, something like a theatrical cadence. Cadence is something known as this rise and fall of the voice. So you can write like a stage declamation. You can get upon stills. It means using all those artificial language. But he comes to the first statement in this essay. He says it is not easy to write a familiar style. To write with propriety and simplicity needs more effort from the part of the writer. And he says it is easy to bring out that pompous style, to use all those high phrases, all those high flying language, all those vulgar dialect. It is easy, but it is not easy to pitch upon the very word that exactly fits it, that proper word, that proper style by which you should express your subject or write your subject. So it is not easy to come up with the perfect word. So he says it is not the first word which comes to your mind which you should put it in a paper. Actually, you should wait for the best word which will essentially reveal the true meaning of that sentence or that piece of essay. So he continues, out of the available words, let me take, out of 8 or 10 words equally common, equally intelligible, with nearly equal pretensions, it is a matter of nicety and discrimination to pick out the very one the preferableness of which is scarcely perceptible but decisive. So when you start writing, you will have 10 or 8 or 10 equally sounding or which have equal meanings, or something which looks like synonyms. But it needs nicety and discrimination from the part of the writer to pick up the perfect word when you start writing, and that is the most decisive part, the most important part, to pick up the right from word from these set of words which looks more or less the same. So out of the available words, it requires a matter of some nicety and discrimination. So discrimination is something which comes from your experience of reading and writing. Or reading a good piece can give you an idea about how should you write in a comprehensible manner. And later, the next part, he says that he has certain objection against Dr. Johnson's style, and he says this is the reason. He says the reason why I object to Dr. Johnson's style is that there is no discrimination, no selection, no variety in it, and above all, he uses tall, opaque words taken from the first row of rubric. He says the contents should be explained in simple, clear and dignified words. It should neither be all those high sounding or flamboyant. And that is why he objects to the style of Dr. Johnson. He says Dr. Johnson uses all those long words, all those opaque, difficult words, which is taken from the first row of rubric. Rubric means the portions of a prayer book wherein the first letter or the first word of each chapter is printed in red ink. So, according to him, Dr. Johnson chooses the first big word that comes to his mind. And such words are obscure, very difficult, and the readers will not be able to understand or comprehend the meaning easily. So he completely objects the style of Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson's style completely displeases Hazlitt. And he continues, he says, he uses tall or big words taken from the first row of the rubric, words with greatest number of syllables or Latin phrases with merely English termination. So he uses words with greatest number of syllables just to show his pedantry, his knowledge, his scholarship, just to make people think that Dr. Johnson is a very scholarly person. So, according to William Hazlitt, it is actually something like a failure from the part of Dr. Johnson to use those tall or big words with all those greatest number of syllables to have a kind of a, according to him, it is something like an unmeaning pomp, a kind of a show off. And he says, if a fine style depended on this sort of arbitrary pretensions, it would be fair to judge of an author's elegance by the measurement of his words and substitution of foreign circumlocutions with no precise associations for the mother tongue. So he says that if we thought like something like, if fine style is something like bringing out this kind of pretensions, as you see in the works of Dr. Johnson, then we should judge an author by measuring the weight of his words. He is completely against Dr. Johnson's style. He goes into a state like ridiculing the style of Dr. Johnson. He says that Dr. Johnson was using all those words which had more weight, and if you are going to judge an author just by looking at the weight of a word, then Dr. Johnson is the best. So he is ridiculing, he is giving out an element of sarcasm against the writing of Dr. Johnson. So, and all those substitutions of foreign circumlocutions, all those circumlocution is a kind of a roundabout way of speaking. So, there are writers who uses all those foreign phrases, foreign or Latin phrases, usually Latin phrases or French phrases, just to show off their knowledge. So, he says that if fine style was judged based on these pretensions, on these measurement of words, just looking at the weight of the words or the way they uses all those foreign phrases, then Dr. Johnson is the best. And he continually tease this style of Dr. Johnson. He continues, how simple is to be dignified without ease, to be pompous without meaning. It is so simple to look so dignified without ease, without being clear, and to be pompous without meaning. You can use all those high sound words, all those high flying language, artificial language without a trace of meaning in it. It is so simple. It is so simple to be dignified without ease. So here he is trying to say that he completely objects the style you see in the works of Dr. Johnson. And he continues, he says, surely it is but a mechanical rule for avoiding what is low to be always pedantic and affected. So, as I said earlier, he says there are two extremes. One is the seriousness of a pulpit, where you have can give you a stage declamation where you look like a scholarly person, and the other side is a the vulgar one, which contains all those clownish pronunciations, vulgar dialect. So he says that here Dr. Johnson is giving out all those high sounding word or all those using a artificial language just to hide hide his low status. He says, what is low? It is but a mechanical rule for avoiding. So this is something very mechanical, very deliberate way of avoiding or hiding his true self, which is actually very low according to William Hazlitt. So these are the words of William Hazlitt. Dr. Johnson, according to, in English literature, when you talk about Dr. Johnson, he is considered to be a giant in English literature. So these are the only comments. These are the comments made by William Hazlitt. The general literary circles will never agree with the words of William Hazlitt. And he continues, it is clear you cannot use a vulgar English word if you never use a common English word at all. A fine tactic is shown in adhering to which are perfectly common. So the fine tact, the fine method is to adhere to what is perfectly common. So he says the fine way is to adhere to what is perfectly common, and there too there are many pitfalls, like you can go to a kind of a disgusting circumstances and you can use all those D-based vulgar pronunciation. So you should maintain a fine tact to understand what is common yet simple, clear and precise. And there are also possibilities like using all those professional or technical allusions. You may fall for that too. You may fall prey to that too. So the fine tact is to adhere to what is perfectly common, what is perfectly simple, clear and precise. You shouldn't go for all those low cant phrases. So here I am stopping my first part of description of this essay. Hope it is clear. Thank you. Have a nice day.